It's now completely covered in boulders and debris. You see this brand new Volkswagen. It has been ripped either out of the driveway or out of the garage from all the mud that came flowing through this house. This house and many others on this street, nearly every one of them, has mud in it several feet high.
This is a 14-year-old girl that was pulled from the mud this morning, just completely covered in it. And these guys that are doing the work out there, they're also having to deal with just as much mud as everybody else.
There are still search and rescue operations going on, as you mentioned, and Sheriff Brown did expand this mandatory zone. We're standing in what used to be a voluntary area south of the 192 that is now under this mandatory evacuation order. Take a look at this house on Olive Mill, the debris, the amount of trees, these huge trees, and the mud going right through the center of this house.
This is the 101. Wow. Northbound lanes of the 101 just completely covered with all kinds of debris from the Thomas fire. The heavy rain started at 3:30 this morning, and it was relentless for at least a half hour. And minutes later, we started hearing calls about landslides, the debris flowing down, power being cut in certain places. And this is the result right now. The 101, it probably won't be open today. May not be open for tomorrow. We just don't know.
We're standing on the Olive Mill overpass of the 101 right now. We're watching these guys try to do some work to clean up the 101, but it still looks very much like it has over the past couple of days. We'll show you just how bad this is, and then we'll zoom in on those guys that are just trying to suck up the water and then put it in those trucks. The problem is their hose keeps getting full of all the debris, so they have to keep shoveling it out of the way. Here, these are just some of the obstacles that emergency crews are having to deal with. I'll walk up with the light so you can see a little better. There's still fire hydrants that have been sheared off. They've been spewing water for days now. All of this still happening in this area. Another big thing, we were just talking with one of the firefighters from Los Angeles County. He told us that swimming pools are actually becoming a big hazard for these search and rescue teams. Think about it. There's no fence. It's covered in mud. You have no idea that there's a swimming pool there, and they could just step right in, and then you get dropped down to the bottom with no way to be able to get out, and then you have an active rescue that has to happen. So that's a big concern for a lot of these areas. These homes, of course, they're enormous mansions, a lot of them, and they have a lot of swimming pools. So that's another reason they don't want people just walking around these areas and why residents really should get out. You can see just these large boulders that are now wedged in between these trees, homes with mud all the way up the wall. Look at this one little, it almost looks like a pool house or something that was here. Look how high up the mud goes on that wall. Now, Joyce mentioned that this is still a search and rescue area. Obviously, they've still got a lot of work to do out here just to try to maybe locate anybody that may still be in this mud, or find the people that may be missing. We just don't know yet. Cadaver dogs and the search and rescue dogs able to smell. They're really useful in these situations because people, when you and I walk out here or anybody else just sees this, it's hard to spot anything. But the dogs have that nose, and they're going to be the ones heading out there today and doing a lot of the work for these teams. We've been driving around Montecito all day, and it's just we found another horrible neighborhood, and this is just one of them. This is Randall Road, just off of San Ysidro Creek, which is right behind all these big trees. Every home on this street is a total loss. They've been just wiped out by all the mud and debris that came flowing down this area. They were able to carve out just a little section of the street to get some emergency vehicles up here. The coroner's office was also up this direction. Just about 30 minutes ago, they dropped off family members that were coming back to one of these homes, and there's still bubbling of either gas or water lines that are in this area. I mean, just utter destruction. There's no other way to say it. It's horrible, and Sheriff Brown said it looked like a World War I battlefield. It's so true. It's god-awful everywhere, and it's hard to imagine where people start. There's a whole lot of work that's being done on the 192, and unfortunately, there's still a lot of residents that are up here that are just making their way around the 192, trying to either get to Santa Barbara or to Carp or see their neighborhood. We want to urge people to hang tight in your homes. There's a lot of emergency vehicles that are out here, enormous tractors that are lifting mud and debris, and it's just, it's an endless work. I mean, this is weeks and months, and it's going to be years until any of these neighborhoods look anything like they used to.